Hello and welcome to another episode of Piecemeal Painting. I come to you today from the future a little bit. I had begun a video where I started working with the paint and then there was an issue with the battery. So I have to kind of backtrack a little bit here. In the last video you did see me begin with my rough sketch. Rough sketches I think are very important. And I began getting all of the information in pencil very lightly onto the canvas. I spent some time off camera just adding some more detail to the face, make sure I was happy with it. The last thing you want to do is start painting the face and making changes to your design and ideas on the facial structure. So today I thought we'd just take a few moments to talk a bit about the paints that we're going to be using. It's called acrylic paint. Acrylic paint is great because it is opaque, which means that it usually, for the most part, covers up other paints or pencil lines. There are some exceptions. The yellow I'm using is a little bit less opaque, unfortunately, and as a result, I've got to be a bit careful and aware of that as I am painting. We're going to be using some phthalo blue today. Despite the spelling, the pronunciation is phthalo, and it's a great paint because it's a fairly intense blue. We're going to be tempering that a little bit today with some titanium white, and as you can see, I've already begun the very top part of the canvas. And I took a little bit of white and added it to the phthalo in order to just change up the paint from the tube. I try to avoid using paint from the tube directly if I can help it, just because I find I get more natural colors that way. So I've got my blue started there. And one thing to note about sky is that the sky tends to want to lighten as it gets toward the horizon. So I'm going to start adding some white to my mixture, and if I have too much I might add a little bit more of the phthalo blue. So I'm trying to slowly get a lighter upon lighter version of that color onto the canvas, and the transition should be fairly subtle. So I'm going to just begin by adding some paint there. We spoke last time around about the need to do backgrounds first, and the reason for that is right here. I got a little bit of the sky over on top of the mountain, and that's not a big deal just because when I get to the mountain next with the next layer of paint, it'll be overlapping the sky anyways. So if you do make some mistakes, if you're a little bit off in your strokes, try to be as accurate as you can, obviously, but if you make a little mistake, it's okay because you don't have to worry about wrecking a job you've already done and trying to remix a color, which, to be honest with you, is a very frustrating prospect. So again, a little bit of white added to my mixture to lighten it, and as I get toward the horizon, my sky, as a result, is lightening as well. And it's a matter of degrees. It's not happening too quickly. We don't want it to happen too quickly. And even though the paints do have an opaque quality, I'm still going to try to work around my other objects. So I've got a column here, which is kind of broken off on the top in the background, but it's in front of the sky. So I'm just going to try and paint around that as best I can. It just helps to remind me that it's there as I'm painting. I'm notorious for getting a little bit zoned out as I paint. And if that happens, at least I've got a big white space there to remind me that I do have an object there that I need to include. So once again, I'm going to keep working on this a little bit. We'll come back in the next video and I will have worked on the mountains a little bit by then, but then we can start talking about the face itself. Because to be honest with you, the problem with painting is that once you get kind of like the start of it, like I have here, the rest is kind of tedious. We're just gonna put a layer of sky. We'll put some mountains in there. I won't put any detail on the mountains yet, like texture. We'll talk more about how to do that in a separate video. But just to sort of get the idea of starting out your painting, working on backgrounds first. Oh, and also having your supplies ready before you start. I think it's very important to actually have all of your cleanish palette, your paints ready to go before you start. And that way you're not wasting any time where the paint could be drying out on you as you grab other colors and select other brushes. You've got everything ready to go. And that just makes your life a whole lot easier when you start. I also have some water here as well. And if your paint does begin to dry out a little bit, tiny bit of water in your brush will help revitalize that paint, just so you can avoid those little white spaces on the canvas. Please note that does dilute the color a little bit, so you want to use very minute amounts of water as you go. All right, so I hope you found that helpful. I often do find the hardest part of a painting is getting started on it. So once you are confident and ready to begin, it is a wonderful experience to paint and very relaxing, I find, once I'm ready to go and the stress of setting things up is over. All right, so thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please share it with your friends who might also be artistically minded. Give it a like if you feel it deserves it. And maybe even if you want to see more content, subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much. Bye-bye now.